we're going to look at adding an additional origin with a new coordinate system for Solidworks in the part environment, but you can also do this in the assembly environment too by the same method. So this can be quite useful if you're collaborating with other members of your team or other businesses, other colleagues, and so on, and they're all maybe working in different 3D softwares, or you want to establish different origins to the ones that you've originally modeled in, and you might want to. In this case, we're going to show you how to do it with a step file to save out with a different origin in a step file, so it's kind of pretty handy. So you will see where you're probably fairly familiar with your front planes, top and right planes, and the origin here, which is where your model set up to. And you can see in the screen over on this side, you've got those planes there, and the origin. If I click on the origin, there's a point here. And also you'll notice we quite often set up, or I quite often set up, surfaces to create a reference point for parts, for exporting for various things. These surfaces have no thickness, but do add, like a plane, some form of reference that you can kind of hide away. And in this case, you can see here I've already added a new origin, and it's called coordinate system because that's a default name, but you could name it anything. And you've got your new axes here in this position, so that's an additional one. And you'll see down the bottom in your feature tree, coordinate system 1, because that's the one that I've just added. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's just roll this back so that disappears. So in order to prepare this new position, you do need a point. So you're going to need to set up a point where your origin is going to be. And in order to do that, I mean, it can be any point. I mean, it could be any point on anything. But because we want this in this position, this is where we want to set up our new origin. I have drawn a sketch on this surface and then created a point that is the intersection of all these three surfaces. And that just gives us our reference point, but there's various ways in which you could do that. So how do we go about adding the new reference? Well, you go up to reference geometry at the top here, and in the drop down you'll see coordinate system. You can add a new coordinate system, so you click on that and it brings up a set of options down the left hand side, and there's various ways in which this can be done, but the way I'm going to show you, and the way that I think is easiest and works for us anyway, or works for me, is you need to pay attention to 4 particular boxes. There's position, and then you've got x-axis, y-axis and z-axis. So all of these you can put inputs in to create your new origin and reference. You can do it in other ways. You can define it by ticking this box with numeric values, or ticking the box down below, define with rotation and numeric values. I don't do that. I suspect it's fairly complicated. Other people might. But this works for me. So what you need to do is, in highlighting position, we want to add where the new origin is going to be, and that will be the point at which we sketched earlier. So we're going to pick this point, and you'll see it calls it point 1 sketch 32, and is now given us a new set of axes, which, as you see down here, are set to the very same positions as the original ones. But you might not want that. Quite often, a lot of software defaults to the z-axis being up. So in order to coordinate with others, you might want to change the direction of these axes. And the way in which you do that is with these 3 boxes here. So it's moved on now to x-axis, but then there's y-axis and z-axis. And the way that you can manipulate these 3 is by clicking on that, giving it a reference. So in this case, because I've got these nice handy planes here, or not planes, they're surfaces actually, similar to planes, we can click on that and you'll see it'll move those axis directions, and we can choose to reverse that or not, as the case may be. And then as you move on and make your selections in a similar fashion with different surfaces and so on, you can manage these 3 axes to point in whatever direction you want them to point in. by using those references. So there you go. You can see we've got that to this position. So say that we wanted it set up like this, that would be fine. All we'd have to do now is click coordinate system, and there we go. You'll see a bit as similar to what we had earlier when I had coordinate system 1 up. We now have created a new coordinate system 2 here. As I say, you could rename that to anything that you wanted it to be, but it defaults to calling it a coordinate system. And then when you want to export this, say as a step file, the way to do that for other people to use with this new coordinate system rather than the origin is to do the following. You go to File, Save As, and click Save As. And you'll be familiar with this screen that comes up, and it's suggesting that we save this as a part. Well, we're not going to save it with the part, and you'll notice that we don't get any reference to coordinates down the bottom here when we're saving as a SolidWorks part. But when we go to step file, for example, you'll see down here we've got output coordinate system as a suggestion, and there is a drop down box, and where it says default, that would export it to the standard origin that you would already have had. And if you hadn't added a coordinate system, there would be no other options when you click this arrow to the right. But when I click the arrow to the right, now we should see our additional options. So coordinate system 2 was the one that I just set up. As you can see on the left hand side, we click on that and choose that. And then when we save that file out, it will save it out with the origin here rather than the original here, and with the axes in the direction that you've selected. So I hope this helps you click less and save some stress, and see you soon. Thanks. Bye.